Who is ready for Great Lent? Ready? It starts tomorrow. 40 days of fasting and prayer to bring us to what? To bring us to Holy Week. And for those who are excited to start the spiritual journey, I know there's so many here that are excited to start the spiritual journey of Great Lent. I wish you all the best. But today's message is for those who aren't excited. To those who are not interested in fasting and enduring the difficulties of fasting and prayer, I want to remind you about something important. Something about who you are. I want to remind you about the legacy that you have inherited. What is your legacy? Or not your legacy, but the legacy that you have inherited. Well, looking around this church, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and maybe it's in great-great-grandparents, we're all connected because at some point, I believe, and looking around, I think that the majority, there's some lineage in our families of farmers. Now, I know that my grandfather was a farmer. Some of you, it might be your great-grandfather who was a farmer. Some of you might be your great-great-grandfather who was a farmer. But someone in your lineage was a farmer. Am I right? Right. Yeah, probably. One thing about being a farmer is that our legacy of having that farmer background means that we shouldn't be foreign to hard work and determination. Because hard work and determination are sown into our culture, into our traditions, into the legacy that we've inherited. But this is one thing that us, as those like for myself and a lot of the kids who were born and raised in America, we don't often realize the differences between traditional farming in America versus traditional farming in Asia. And there is a difference. We know farming is hard, right? Farming is hard. But did you know that rice farming, which is probably what most of our great-grandparents and grandparents, great-grandparents were doing, rice farming is even harder. See, when you do wheat farming, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but wheat farming, you plant seeds, and then you pray for rain, and you pray for God to do what He needs to do, and then the crops rise, right? But in rice farming, it is an endless process, and even in wheat farming, you have a winter season where you stop. If you overgrow the field needs a break. But in rice farming, there's no such thing as a break. Once you farm, you have to farm again. So rice farming has many steps, and there's never a moment to take a break. It is about hard work and determination that produces fruit. So if you didn't know, I had to look it up myself, about the steps of rice farming. So the first step in rice farming, ari, chor, this is our main crop, right? Our main thing that we eat. Rice, the first step of rice farming is 1, seed selection. Choosing the right seeds can lead to 5 to 20% increased harvest. So you can't just put any seed down. You have to look at the seeds and figure out, are these the right seeds? So rice farmers, like our great-grandparents, had to be very meticulous in choosing the type of seeds. There's work there. The second step is land preparation. This is very labor-intensive work. You have to dig down to the clay because you can't just have mud there. Because the clay has to be there because what you need is water retention. The water can't just go back into the ground. There has to be standing water in rice farming. So there has to be standing water. So you have to get to the clay, and then after that, you have to put down fertilizer. You have to take the fertilizer and put it down, and at the same time, build walls around your farm so the water doesn't go out. And then on top of that, the floor of the farm has to be level. It has to be level in a way that you can then bring water in and have it level for all the crops, and then let water go. Because you need to make sure that the farm is built ready for the seed. The third is seeding. And there are two ways to do this. There's either transplanting, which is pre-germinated, or direct seeding, so spreading the seed through. The fourth step is managing the water and the nutrients. Checking every day the water levels, making sure it's not too much, not too little. If it's too much, it's going to hurt your crop. If it's too little, your crops are going to be growing. The fifth step is keeping the enemies of the field away. Rodents, harmful insects, diseases, and weeds. There's so much work here. And then finally, after all of this, you have to harvest it. To go into the field and take the harvest. So when you look at these steps, we should be comforted that we have inherited a legacy of hard work and determination. Our forefathers were able to do this, and because they were able to do this, we are here today. Our parents had and grandparents had food to eat in order to give us the ability to survive and be here today. And this is the thing. If you are nervous about going to the Great Lent, realize that all you're doing during this Great Lent is very similar to what our foremothers did in preparing for rice farming. See, look, the first step of rice farming is seed selection. So in seed selection, you need to plan out the type of seed that you're going to use. And you need to go through it and make sure that you have a good plan of what that seed's going to be. That's exactly what you have to do tonight. Tonight, before Lent begins, you need to figure out what type of seeds of God you're going to plant in your heart. So you have to think, what is it that I am going to do during this Great Lent that's going to plant the seeds of God in my heart? Is it going to be prayer? Am I going to do the hour, the Shema Namaskaram, the Lenten Shema Namaskaram? Are you going to do or are you just going to do maybe just it's good enough for you to do the Kalma and then say your own litany of prayers? Or you could do, or with it, you have the Bible, or you can read the Bible. Well, what are you going to read in the Bible? Maybe you should have a plan of, I'm going to read this passage. Maybe I'm going to be as ambitious to read all the New Testament, or all of the Gospels, or all of the letters of Paul. Maybe it's going to be that every day you're going to make sure that the seed that you're going to do is silence, meditation, Jesus prayer. Or maybe it's also that you're also going to add, I'm going to read these spiritual books. These writings from St. John Chrysostom, or a very good book. There's so many by the fathers of our church, like T.J. Joshuachin, or by Bajeshachin, and others who have written very good books in our church, or those you can buy online from Ancient Faith, or publishing, or from St. Vladimir's publishing. There's so many ways we can do this. And on top of that, maybe the seed is also almsgiving, that you're going to do acts of charity. Finding the right seeds and something that you can do consistently every day, that you're going to plant every day during Lent, is important. Choosing that plan, making sure it's not too easy, making sure it's not too hard, making sure it's perfect for your spiritual development. Seed selection. Second step, land preparation. Working the land to make sure it's ready to accept the seeds. For Lent, that means that the practice of fasting and abstinence from certain foods. Why? Because when we do this fasting and abstinence from certain foods, meat and dairy, then we prepare our hearts. We prepare our hearts to receive the seeds. See, the thing is, when our stomachs are full, you know what happens? Every part of our body becomes full. Our mind becomes full. Our heart becomes full. We become content in a way that we don't even look up or look around. We become like someone, and excuse the word, but dumb. We become dumb. We become, unable to realize that there's something more. But when we are hungry, when we are having our stomachs not full, when we fast and when we have that certain abstinence from certain foods, we realize something else. We realize our hunger for God. Have you ever prayed on a full stomach? When you pray on a full stomach, it's very difficult. Pray on an empty stomach and see the difference. Fasting prepares our hearts to accept the seeds of God's goodness. Third step is seeding. Putting the right seeds to use. Prayer, Bible reading, silence, reading spiritual books, almsgiving, acts of charity. We hopefully have a plan that we're committed to, And we're spreading those seeds every day, spreading those seeds on our hearts and on our minds. The fourth step is managing the water and the nutrients. During Lent, we need to be very vigilant about our hearts. We could be doing everything right, fasting, praying, doing all of the actions of Great Lent without actually changing anything. So we need to watch our own spiritual growth and our spiritual decline. We need to watch pride coming up in our hearts if we're fasting so well and they go, oh, look at me, I'm fasting so great. We have to watch the pride. At the same time, we have to be careful not to become too tired, to become too angry, to become in a way that we are not also challenged enough. So either if we are too tired or angry, then we need to change something. If we aren't challenged enough by our Great Lent and we don't see the growth, we need to add something. The fifth step is keep the enemies of the field away. For Lent, this is the temptations and the sins that will ruin the crops. Pride, jealousy, lust, gluttony, laziness. That's the big one. Laziness, anger, conflict, lack of patience. Satan will try to ruin our crops by bringing these pestilences on us. We need to be vigilant for these outside forces. So finally we come to the harvest, the destination of Great Lent. The destination of Great Lent is what? The Holy Week, the cross, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And if you put the hard work and the dedication during Great Lent, you will find yourself ready to stand in this church during Holy Week at the cross and to sing and to be pierced by the songs of the prayers. Not that the songs of the prayers just wash over us, but they pierce us. If you prepare yourself and do what is called for and plant the seeds that you're called to plant during this Great Lent, you will be fulfilled in a way that when you come to the Holy Week, you will find new meaning and blessing. If you put the hard work and dedication into Great Lent, when we sing the songs like, we bow before your cross, which brought salvation for our souls, and we cry out with the thief, O Christ, remember us when you come. You don't know the English, but you know the violin, right? Atma kelerekshi chorunin slibayenami chengel chore no dopum cholum numashiha yokengel ni vanidum por. When you hear that song and you come and bow down before the cross, if you've done the hard work and the dedication to ask God to draw close to you, that song will pierce you in a new way. Like our fathers and our mothers and our ancestors before us, let us be encouraged by their dedication and perseverance, that by their hard work. If they could work hard to ensure the good harvest that allowed us to be here today, we should be ready. We should be ready to take the challenge of Great Lent, to plant the seeds of goodness in our hearts that will reap a harvest for us and the generations to follow us. Let us remember the legacy of the rice farmers and carry the tradition of hard work in our hearts during this Great Lent. All glory and honor to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit.